Hello everyone, I am so excited to bring you today's video. Today I sit down with a very special guest, Jessi Hersey. You may recognize her from the Netflix docuseries Escaping Twin Flames. In the documentary, she got to share some of her story, but today we get to hear it all. Well, most of it all, because she is currently writing a memoir to share her entire unedited story, so stay on the lookout for that. Apart from her anti-cult activism, she's a writer and is currently donating half of her proceeds of her book, Super Gay, a pronoun book for kids, to Trans Lifeline until Valentine's Day 2024. So make sure you check out the link in the pinned comment down below for that. You'll also find her answering questions on her Instagram and TikTok, as well as read her articles on Medium. All of that will be in that pinned comment down below. I am so incredibly grateful that she's here today with us, so please sit back, relax, and enjoy my interview with Jessi Hersey. It's time to let the fresh air in. Before we get into this interview, I'd like to remind you to subscribe if you're interested in cult content. I drop 2 videos a week on a cult or true crime, but mostly cults. So if you're interested in content like that, I would love to have you subscribe and click that notification bell as well. I also have my last Single Mother of the Year to sponsor. And thank you all so much for supporting the other single mothers and single parents I have featured this year. I'm so grateful for you and your support. So today's mom is named Amy. She's a frequent commenter on the channel, and she's looking for mostly basic needs support. So you're going to mostly find gift cards for food and cash cards on her Amazon wish list in that pinned comment down below. I've also shared her Cash App down below, which I don't normally do, but after exchanging several emails with her, I thought it could be a good option for her. So if you're so inclined, you can also send her money directly. And now, without further ado, let's get into my interview with Jessi Hersey. Hi, Jessi. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I'm so excited to have you on my channel, and I feel so honored that you want to share your story with me. I'm like nerding out right now. This is so cool. Is there anything, I already did a little bit of an intro for you, but is there anything else you want to share to the audience? Right off the bat, stuff you're working on. I mean, I'm sure people recognize you from the docuseries, so I'm sure they're curious what you're working on right now.
Currently, I'm working on my memoir, so just my life in the cult and outside of the cult too is written in there, and what led me there. And right now, I have until February 14th of 2024 a charity thing going on for my children's book, which you can find on Amazon, called Super Gay. It's just about pronouns for preschoolers to first grade, and any kids with special needs, any age, could read that too. And half of all proceeds go to Trans Lifeline, which is a literal lifeline for those transitioning to who they truly are. And they help financially. They're also supportive just through the phone call, finding resources where they are. So to me, it's an important cause. So I chose my pronouns book because it matched, and it kind of matches my story too within the cult.
That's so cool. I hope everyone can go rush to Amazon, and I'll make sure to leave the links down in the pinned comment down below so everyone sees it right away when they go to leave a comment. As well as you have so much going on, your YouTube channel, your Medium articles, your memoir, your link to your children's book. It's so cool, all the stuff that you're working on. So all of that for my viewers, that'll all be linked down in the pinned comment down below. So so much was covered in the docuseries, but also, as with all cults, so much was left out. So I really want to kind of hear, first off, before you got in, where kind of were you in your life? Like, what kind of drew you to that group?
I was in between jobs, so I was jobless during the time period, and I had found a tarot reader on YouTube. She's still up and going, and she kind of resonated with the situation with my, I'm going to do this every time I say it, twin flame. Um, but I didn't even know the term twin flame. I didn't even know what that was. I was more of looking at friendship, not a lover, not any of that, just a friendship, purely that, nothing more.
And were
But
you
her,
single at the time?
yes,
Okay,
I
so
was.
you were just really looking for just like a friend, some connection.
Yeah, exactly. And this connection was not like anything else. It was different, and she was my boss. So I wasn't the same sex because I've seen a lot of comments of everyone going, oh, they're straight. I wasn't straight going in, and I'm still not straight now, just to put that out there. Um, she, yeah, was pretty much my boss. So the tarot reader that I found on YouTube, gonna continue highlighting that. She uh I eventually bought after seeing the first video that I really resonated with. I emailed her and we kind of set up my first reading with her. And she's the one who actually introduced me to the concept of twin flames. And she's the one who introduced me to their book, their abusive book. So she's really the one who got me into that. And we continued, we built an actual relationship before she said, hey, go to the forum. And
Oh, wow.
by then I was in a job, yet a lot of changes were happening around me. So just to be clear, I wasn't lonely. I wasn't looking for a relationship, just a friendship.
Yeah. And you had someone that you trusted who was kind of giving you like, I'd assume like, because I've gotten like tarot readings done before too. And when I'm just kind of looking for guidance or something, and like, is that accurate? Like, were you just kind of looking for guidance? You were kind of in between jobs and she suggested this community and you were like, oh, cool, I'm going to join this community online. And it was the Twin Flames open forum, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay.
And I was looking for guidance, but she also gave me, like, talked about her own twin flame relationship. Like, she talked to me a lot about her own relationship and her own twin flame because I didn't understand the relationship. And at that time, I guess I do believe in God, but not in the religious sense, but
Mhm.
not fully in the spiritual sense either. I just believe there's a God. But she just always talked to me about it and introduced the book to me. She told me to read it fully in its entirety, so I did. And at that time, that was their first version of it because it was in 2017.
Mm.
I've read two versions of it, but that was their first version of it. And I read through it within an hour because it's so simply put. And
Mm.
her and I talked back and forth about it. And then I asked her about the open forum, and that's when she said, yeah, you should totally go. And then she did her last reading with me and told me to pick up my own cards. I started doing tarot reading myself.
That's cool. You still
Yeah,
learned like a new skill.
I do tarot reading. I just don't do it as openly as I did when I was in the cult, I guess, because that's when I did it most.
Oh, okay. Got it. I feel like we're gonna get there. Um, so on one of your TikToks, because you also share a lot of insights on your TikTok, um, you mentioned in one of them that the cult did not look like what we're seeing it be portrayed as on Netflix. Like it didn't look like a cult. So what did it seem like to you at the beginning?
It just seemed like two everyday YouTubers that started a community. And they didn't talk like God and everything else like that. They mainly just talked about, yeah, you're finding your lover, you're finding your this. And yes, they advertise constantly still then too, but they just were normal seeming, as normal can be. And they seemed safe at the time. They didn't start changing until about a year in. So
Mm.
around 2018, things started getting a little more pressured, a little more how we see it in the docuseries, but it didn't happen unless you were a coach or within the inner circle. So you literally had to be a coach or inner circle, not in the forum. The forum, you get the good stuff. The forum doesn't show you all the truth, just like right now in the forum, they're showing a lot of their trying to cover their butts.
I was just about to ask that. Like, is the forum kind of what it looked like? Because there are still a lot of kind of positive responses to questions and people who just don't seem like they're fully, like, you can tell who's probably an inner circle person versus how just people who have come across the group recently respond to certain questions in the group. I mean, you're not even in it, I'm sure now.
No. But I do have
But
resources of seeing.
yeah, yeah. They're definitely like trying to save face. But so as time progresses in the group, are you really just are looking for friendship. So are you starting to kind of be more open to that idea of like, oh, maybe I do want to find my twin flame. Maybe I do. Like, did you start paying for any of their like, did they even have the Ascension School at this time?
They did. They had both, but they were only 5 in, and it was like episodes. We called them episodes in the forum, and we'd advertise. So if you just imagine like a film, if you're going to go see an advertisement for a film, the way anyone who's a live student would advertise it is saying, I'm in this, blah, 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 blah.
Hmm.
And so you were literally trained, even just in the beginning of the forum, how to advertise everything going on. So, and once you made it to Ascension Coach level, you were really learning sales, but it was sales which you thought were selling love, but you weren't. And selling their courses, all of their courses, even some of the ones your other guest brought up,
Hmm.
because they have also a meditation CD too. They have a lot, and you can even go to their older YouTube stuff, which I don't think they've deleted yet. They might eventually, but where they just do full blown meditation of Krishna, of deep breathing. You can go on Church of Union unless they've deleted the videos, because they are starting to delete a lot of stuff of proof. But yeah,
Well, it's
so
already out there. It's already in several documentaries. So,
sadly, yeah.
yeah, it's just like the classic steps that cult leaders always take. They're like, okay, well, now let's scrub the internet of all this proof. And it's like, we've already seen it, dude. Like, we've already seen it. So, you're in the group at this point, and then it's kind of you're obviously getting more involved. So what did it look like your day to day? Like what started getting you just more involved in this community, in this group, and start you wanting to kind of have a more romantic connection?
Honestly, because at the time was my not official coach, because I wasn't paying right away. She gave me 5 free sessions, and because Jeff believes you're leaking energy if you do like the mirror exercise with someone that's not paying, uh, she was just literally there as a support. We just talked a lot, and I did eventually buy the courses, but I started with Life Purpose class. That's the one I most resonated with, and then I did Ascension School, and then I wanted to do the coaching program, but that's because of Life Purpose class, because it's so constant. It's just like psychology. I can use some of my background there. In psychology, if you see something constant, which in Life Purpose class, he brings up you being an ascension coach. And like Elle said in the series, that he wanted everyone to be an ascension coach. And this was the start of the program. Keep in mind, this isn't where it's now. This is the start of it.
Yeah.
He just brought up a lot that, yeah, that you'd be helping save the world and heal the world as an ascension coach, help others find their love. And I didn't actually start turning the idea of friendship to love until he honestly became my coach. And that took about a year before that happened.
Oh, wow. So
But
what, sorry, were you about to say something? I don't want to interrupt you.
okay, I was just going to say that during that time, I was pretty much being like a salesperson with the book. They track you in the amount of books and things you are benefiting them financially with. And at that time, I was doing a lot of, because I was looking for my life purpose eventually, that became a huge thing for me. I kept on, I guess, just even my family members that didn't want the book, I would buy them the book and give it to them. And I did a lot of book giving, and then I had multiple copies of my own besides the Kindle version, which I want to also add, I burned the books when I left. I think that's pretty important to add in there. I burned them very proudly. It
I
was a
love
very
that.
happy moment.
So cathartic. You're like, and I need to cleanse myself of this.
Yes,
That is
exactly.
amazing. Wow. You're like, and I literally like let the ashes run down the drain. Like, just
Oh
get
yeah, it was fun. I burned like 5 books, including I
wow.
still have the picture though of what they signed in my book, which I'll eventually share probably on TikTok and my Instagram, but not yet, of what they wrote about my twin flame union.
Wow.
Harmonious Union. That's what they mainly sell, is Harmonious, because I've heard you say just Union. Harmonious, because
Oh, okay. Specifically, it has to be
Harmonious
harmonious.
Union.
Okay.
Yeah, because
My
Jeff
bad.
feels he coined it. No, just so when you do it, he feels like he coined that, though he
Okay.
didn't.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep, see?
I I feel like I keep getting so many questions in my brain and I'm trying to just be very like mindful of like timeline and stuff. So
Okay.
I want to get
Go on.
to Jeff too, but also, so what prompted you to go get coaching? Because it seems like everyone has to eventually get coaching who's like, if they're going to be taken seriously by Jeff and the inner circle, like if you're going to find your twin flame, you have to get into coaching. Like the mirror exercise is not enough. So, what kind of got you into coaching, or just, I guess, and you kind of, her kind of not counseling you, but like guiding you? What made you want to like have those more one-on-one conversations?
Well, she's a genuine person, and it showed, and just even now it still shows. And I like that about her. I only like, I guess, spending time with or using any of my personal energy with people that are genuine. And she seemed very genuine. So I wanted to support what she was doing. So I bought some coaching sessions. But on top of that, if you do coaching, but the only way I could get those coaching sessions was by buying Life Purpose Class and Ascension. So
Oh, so you're not even allowed to pay. I couldn't just go in there and be like, "Can someone coach me?" First, I would have to do the ascension and like life purpose. And then
back then,
back
yes,
then.
but currently, now you can. They instilled right before I left a couple rules of one coach, because we had so many. Because in the start of the coaching program, which was also brought up by your guest, you do have to get 10 random people from the group to give you a testimonial after you do a mirror exercise session, which this also goes against what Jeff already just said of leaking energy. You're freely giving the mirror exercise 10 times to 10 different strangers, which most of mine were in India that I did. So most of my wake up time was like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. to reach their time period for
Wow.
my personal site.
And this was because he kind of wants it to be a structure of your creating your own coaching business under this twin flame universe umbrella, basically. So you're
Yeah, but you
trying
didn't do
to
any.
no, say that, but it didn't do anything.
Didn't you didn't do any legal things you were supposed to. Like, he never gave us I-9s. He never did any of that, which you're supposed to get because we're technically just an umbrella under him. He even describes it that way in Life Purpose Class, which legally speaking, we all should have gotten I-9s, which we never did. And he never paid. Well, we only got paid if we sold classes. So it was the same idea as Nexium. So you get a percentage of that, which wasn't very high. So like the $2022 course, which I don't remember by heart what it was, you get like $222. 1,111 course, you get $111 of that. So I think it was like a 10%.
So you're not
And
paid for your coaching time.
never, no. You
Not
can
even
have
by
your
not by your client, like your client.
eventually, yes, but you have to really work for it. Like, most of my time was, if it wasn't going and coaching our meetings that lasted like 2 hours per meeting, I was also watching the Life Purpose Class in Ascension School, because part of becoming a master Ascension coach, which that didn't come about until everyone had completed their first 10 testimonials, then Jeff went, "Oh, I'm going to update this now. We're going to do this. And now you have to pay for becoming an Ascension coach." So I was part of the free test out beta program before it started becoming something you paid for. And then he added the master Ascension coach, which you had to watch all 105, I'm going to call them episodes, can't give any other word to use, episodes of Ascension School and Life Purpose Class. So that's 210 episodes total, which that is 2.5 hours of your time per episode. And I almost became a master Ascension coach before I left.
Wow. And before you're even like, I just want to make sure I know and the audience knows, before you're even allowed to become a coach, you've already been volunteering. Don't you have to volunteer and have a good volunteer record in order to move on to become a coach?
Not necessarily. You become a
Okay.
volunteer no matter what. If you're just in the forum, you're a volunteer. You start as a volunteer, you continue as a volunteer. As an ascension coach, there's more pressure to do more things for free for them. But in the forum, that's your beginning step. Like when I started on the meme squad before I became management of the meme squad, which I was with someone else who's still there. She and I both did the meme squad together, which you pretty much track everyone as we put, which again, one of the people you had on here also was part of the meme squad. I was one of her higher ups and saying, so we need to do this. And we had to come up with constant new rules. Like I'll never forget, Jeff had us because the original meme manager suddenly left, which he said they were going against their rules. They're going against God. That's mainly what they said, going against God. So he said, if you want to be the manager, prove it to me. And the person I was with and we had an hour to come up with a game plan and show them that we were worthy of being managers in that time period. So we really quick went, okay, Zoom meeting time. Let's talk this through. And we figured it out. We came out, it was pretty much coming up with a slideshow without a slideshow and just going, hey, this is why we should be managers. This is our game plan of what we're going to do to the meme squad to upgrade it, to change things a little bit. And so in that hour, we really quick went back, Zoom meeting with Jeff. It was just the three of us. And he went, okay, you guys are good to go. Prove it to me that you can make this happen in this amount of time. So we had one day after that to implement all our ideas. So we split up the work, which was a work for at least 20 people. That was between two people.
And you had one day to do it.
One day. And I was still, no, let me think. No, at this time I didn't have a job. This was my job. But yeah, so we split it up and she handled putting together the list of who was going to be part of her squad and which groups on Facebook they were going to go into. And then my squad and which groups they were going to go into. And I was tracking the groups that we could no longer go in due to them counting it as harassment, and then putting new ones up and researching the other Facebook groups we could go into. So it was anything spiritual. It didn't matter what the group was. It didn't have to be twin flame themed. And it could be mental health.
Really?
Yes.
And this was before MAP? This was still when it was
he hadn't talked about MAP yet. MAP was talked about, trying to think when MAP was brought up. MAP was brought up after I had been like in the management position for a couple months. It happened quick. It wasn't 1, 2, 1, 2.
Wow.
But
so you have a job going in, you start kind of just, and you seem like such a genuine, kind person too. And I think that like when you figure out something that feels like it's working for you, you probably want to share it with people. Like you bought the book and you gave it to all your friends and your family and you're like, this is so great. Like, I think a lot of us I've gotten that way before. I'm like, oh my gosh, everyone, this is like the secret. You have to like do, and I don't mean like the secret, like law of attraction. I just mean, you're going to be so happy if you do this or whatever. And you're super well-intentioned and, I'm assuming very enthusiastic about your role and how it was growing within the group. Was that part of why you were kind of in this gray area with like a day job again? Because you were like investing so much time into your coaching program? Because I imagine like it would have been difficult to manage both. How many hours were you like working, doing Twin Flames Universe stuff versus your full or part-time job? Like what did your like day/week break down? How did it like break down?
It's honestly extremely exhausting. It's probably why I have to multitask now, because sanity purposes of so many years of being in the cult, I would go to work, and even sometimes during work, if it was lunch or anything, I'd be doing work for Twin Flames Universe. And in the morning before going to work, I'd be doing work for Twin Flames Universe. And when I'd get home, be doing work for Twin Flames Universe, whether it was a holiday, even because I also helped manage their Instagram account. I was alone in managing their Twitter account for years. 2 out of the 3 years I was there, all alone. So I got to deal with a lot of hate. But Instagram, I was there for like a year and a half. I got pretty high up in position with social media and doing a lot of marketing for them for free. And I was a coach for, I'd say 2.5 years out of my 3 years there. So I coached a lot of people, and I eventually also became, on top of the other roles I already had. So I was booked to stores, I was meme manager, I don't know what the title is for IG, but I did IG and Twitter. And then I also became management in the influx of emails coming in of bringing people into the group and walking them in and then assigning them a coach to meet with, and then also myself being assigned as one of those coaches too to bring in, because this was Jeff's way of trying to get us financially there. So I was also a part of that. That's just 5 things, and all of those alone are each part-time to full-time jobs. On top of, I also had my own book, which I highly recommend, which I did unpublish it, but it's still advertised online, which I wish it wasn't. I have like, Twin Flame children's books, 3 of them, and then
That
my
you
journey
wrote.
back. Yeah, I wrote, plus a poetry book, which I updated, which thank God it's better now. It's my journey back to faith versus my Twin Flame journey. It is technically still the same poetry book, just I took out and added to, which was not easy to do since I did it all within the year of 2020. But it was part of rechanging and being true to who I was and not to who Jeff and Shaleia had manipulated and coerced me to be.
Yeah. And that brings me to a question. I think a lot of people, whenever they hear about anyone in a cult, but specifically with Twin Flames Universe, since it seems like everyone was volunteering their time
Correct.
and you were constantly doing inner work and being forced to look at yourself, but you were in it for years. So there had to have been at the time some kind of value you were seeing in doing those things. So what did you feel? Because like I think people say like Mark Vicente, I always say Mike or Mark
I
from
don't know.
Nexium. He was one of the whistleblowers. He always says like people don't go join a cult, they join a good thing. So what did you feel like when you're donating all your time, you're feeling inspired enough to actually become a coach and try to help other people? What did you feel like you were gaining from this?
I felt like I was actually helping others because that's just something part of who I am. I like to help others. I did learn through the process of abuse there when to back off and when to go full throttle. I wanted to help others find their lover. Who doesn't want to help someone find that special someone? Who doesn't want to help someone heal from pain, from suffering? And that was part of the appeal that he constantly advertised in the forum. And even as an ascension coach, when we weren't making sales, we weren't selling the love, we weren't helping others, we were being selfish little, I won't say the word, but
He would
you
call
could
you
fill in the
that.
blank there.
Yeah, that was something I wanted to cover too, because at the beginning you said they just seemed like a nice couple on YouTube that wanted to help people find twin flames. But as you got more involved in the group and you said you were like working your way up, you obviously had more access to Jeff and Shaleia. Uh
Yeah.
Shalele, as you like to call
Nice. Yep, Shaleia, all the way.
throw it in there. Um, Obviously, the way they treated you seems like it started to change.
Absolutely. Like as soon as my business started running, which this was only, yeah, it would have been a year in, is when everything came at once, like management positions, all the meetings, and Jeff would like personally DM me and we would have personal Zoom meetings like this. There was a lot, and Shaleia every so often did. Shaleia every so often did. But she, which I kind of want to bring this up now, of my time with them, Shaleia, I can't even say her name anyway.
It's not real,
That
so you
person,
don't need to.
yeah. She was equally as involved as Jeff. Like she brutally made fun of me multiple times and put me down. But the thing is, they switched between. It didn't show that in the docuseries, and I think it's pretty important to know that it's not always Jeff talking. So if you go even to Mother God, her story, they switched between Father God, Mother God. They did call themselves that too. And whoever needed to talk, so if the divine feminine needed to talk, it was more of Shaleia. If the divine masculine needed to talk, it was Jeff. and they switched depending on what the consciousness needed at the time. So whether you needed nurturing from mother or nurturing from father, that is when they would do that. But they were equally, yes, Jeff definitely talks more and is very abusive, but so is Shaleia. The only time she backs down the way you saw her in the docuseries is to make it look like how everyone's seeing her right now, thinking she's victim number one. She absolutely is not. She victimizes hundreds, thousands of people daily, and even gender-wise too.
Well, I was wondering about that too, because I don't know a ton about their background, but I just, even in the doc and in some of my research I've done, it's like, oh, Jeff was in Hawaii and then suddenly he met this spiritual girl in Sedona. And sometimes I'm like, is she the one that like planted the seed of twin flame thing and is like the mastermind behind some of it, but she like takes a step back so that Jeff can like have his little narcissistic moment. I'm not, saying he's a narcissist. I'm just saying like he
Well,
does
it's
like to
already
talk.
psychologists have already said he is, and
Yeah.
so
Well, he
you
said
can legally say that because
yeah,
it has
okay,
already been
great.
approved, just like cults on Wikipedia. It already says they're cults, so he can't deny that.
Yeah.
Even professionals, too, to be exact, have already said it.
Yeah. Well, that's validating because it's some of the, I just can't even imagine getting berated by, I guess now the both of them, the way even just some of the clips, I'm like, there must have been worse stuff that they said. They must have, because I mean,
Oh,
you
yeah.
guys were to blame for not selling enough Ascension
Always.
courses. So he would literally like cuss you out if you weren't. I mean, did he even give you a quota or would he just get mad one day when you didn't sell enough?
We had a monthly quota we had to meet. And on top of that, there was like the docuseries. I'm glad they at least put that line of mine in of first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, all the way to 100 of coaches. Eventually, they put in a program of like employee of the month, even though you're not getting paid, of how many sales you get. A lot of people eventually got there. I never got there. I once made it to number 3 in sales, but that was my beginning journey. Eventually, I was always at 10, 20, or wherever, and they only recognized you if you were top 10. That was the only time they would actually give recognition or talk to you whatsoever. Just like they wouldn't say happy birthday to you or anything like that unless you've done a lot of sales, like a whole lot of sales. They'd start recognizing you. But in the beginning, when they want you, they'll talk to you plenty, and then they kind of back off of that for a while until you give them what they want. And if you don't meet the quota, which we didn't meet the quota, good percentage of the time, Jeff, which he still does, it's super annoying, like super annoying. He brings up the fact I was poor once, and then he'd bring up you guys are just showing what is it? Something consciousness. I can't think of the word. Lack of abundance consciousness. You're just showing lack of abundance consciousness, and you're choosing because that is part of what you're taught. So your entire reality, you chose it. So if you were to get fired or laid off, which at one point in my journey there, I did get fired, but it was due to the fact that I'm gay. But anyways, I will go into that further eventually.
So you're kind of going through some personal frustration with how you're identifying, like how you're expressing yourself, and you're getting discriminated against. I mean, that's against the law. Like they should not have fired you because like,
Oh, they did once it got out. Like
oh good, oh good, okay.
I see I can't deny the part that I'm attracted to men still, so, but I like to say gay because I consider myself gay, queer, because I prefer women versus men, but I'm still attracted, so I have to say bi.
Yeah.
Which I wish I didn't say
accurate.
that. I have to because I can't deny that part of me.
I'm not gonna, yeah. I can't lie to myself, especially with after what you've been through, where they kind of wanted you to do that. But we'll get there for sure. So you're kind of like, I'm just trying to paint the picture of like you are being discriminated against in your day-to-day, like your real off the internet life. And then you're
Correct.
going into this group and these coachings. And I mean, there must have been a level of connection and acceptance at first, or at least you feel like you have a purpose because you're helping people, right? Is that like appropriate for me to assess?
Yes, but there is a fun fact within there too, that even when I was in the cult, I didn't feel like I fit in. That was something that I had my entire life, even when I was little, because I was in special education. I was a special needs child, expressive language disorder. So I always felt left out and not relating to my peers. So connection was really important to me. I never had that relative relationship, which I got from the group, honestly. But I still didn't feel like I fit in, even as I got higher rankings in the group. I never honestly felt that way. I just felt, hey, I actually have connections that are working. And I'm not getting, because I got rejected a lot in my life as a child with special needs. Because with that, on top of discrimination, ableism, you name it, there's a lot that comes with that when you, which part of the LGBTQIA community in general, with laws that are coming about now, there's proof. And just for those that are disabled, there's a lot of proof within America alone that the look of someone who is gay and disabled isn't a great look, apparently, and isn't accepted. So I got that acceptance there, that connection there,
Yeah.
if that helps kind of describe that.
Yeah. And so it had to have started feeling like a community. Like you said at first that it felt very safe.
Yes, it absolutely felt safe. Like the first red flag I ever encountered was my first Christmas as a coach with Jeff and Shaleia. Like they had a full-blown tantrum because we didn't get them gifts. Because as our gurus and master ascension, well, master Christ, you're supposed to apparently give gifts. We got a full chew out on that of, you ungrateful little, I'm never going to say the words, but ungrateful little fill in the blank. And don't you respect us? Don't you love us? You aren't showing that. You're showing how ungrateful you are. And the first thought I had in my mind is, how are we doing that? We're working for you for free. That was my first thought, but I didn't write it because I knew better not to write it.
Yeah.
Like they did a full-blown video just in the Ascension Coach. It didn't go in the forum or anywhere else, just to us, that we were ungrateful. And so we all band together and did a little money thing of each of us giving a certain amount of money, and we did buy them gifts then. And then they did a whole thing on YouTube about the gifts that we gave them. And they did a whole thing in the open forum on it. But they didn't do it in their Ascension Coach group. It was just open forum YouTube gifs.
Oh, because it wasn't about, oh, look at the, like, thank you so much, I want to extend gratitude. It's about, I'm going to show all of you how much these people love me.
Correct.
They got me gifts. So yes. did he call, okay, a couple questions.
Yeah,
did he
go for
call
it.
himself Master Christ?
Yes. In the video clip, because that's just a clip from the Ascension School class, where he's talking about the picture of him is Christ. He's Christ consciousness, as we all are, which he's now stating we all are, which they've done this before with Sarah Berman's first article on Vice, which I will happily advertise her. She rocks. With that, he started doing that too. Oh, we all are. That's the only time they changed their wording. Otherwise, Jeff and Shaleia are Master Christ, the consciousness that we all need to have, that we all apparently have. But the only time they actually say that is when they're under fire, which right now they're pretty hardcore under fire.
Yeah. And I think they're really starting to feel that, luckily. So, okay. And also I want to clarify something you said, because I was like, okay, if this really happened, it's even funnier than what I had in my head. So did they record a video and then send it to all of their coaches berating them for not getting gifts? Or was it like in a Zoom setting?
It was on Facebook Live in our, which I bet they deleted it by now, unless it's on the Holy Grail, but I don't know if it is. But they just did a Facebook Live. That's normally how it would go. Like when apparently we're bad and horrible humans, they did a Facebook Live in only the Ascension Coach area, not the open forum. They did a whole different speech in the open forum, pretty much saying had turned away from God and that they were using Jeff and Shaleia's lights to make lots of money off of them and take their money, which it's funny, they still stated that years later, saying they were trying to take their money. But again, they do different things in different areas. So what you're seeing in the open forum, they're probably saying not great things behind the scenes.
Here's something I don't understand about cult leaders in general, because we see it with Nexium and Keith Raniere. We see it with Mother God. We see it with Jeff and Shaleia, is the sheer amount of recorded stuff we have of them saying the craziest things. And I just can't help but think it's like, so they're afraid that anyone who's in the open forum sees them treat you guys terribly. But then they're literally creating things that can be downloaded and screenshotted to share of them like yelling at you, berating you, calling you guys names. And then they have the audacity to try to like hide from it or claim it was taken out of context when it finally gets exposed. What do you think this like obsession is with them recording literally everything they do?
Well, then you go to the abuser, which I think his name is Dr. Honda. I was told to watch him. So whenever people tell me to watch something, I'm purposely doing it so I can add to the conversation. But he's been doing our docuseries. He's been going step by step, and he is an actual therapist, doctor. He has his license, and he's gone over like some of the things that they say and do, and they are narcissist abusers. They are showing themselves to be that, and most of the time a narcissist doesn't think of the consequence, just the fame, which Jeff and Shaleia are obsessed with fame, the idea of money and fame. Like once in the Ascension Coach group, they did a whole video on someday celebrities will come and spend millions of dollars just to spend a day with us to give them their twin flame. And even in life purpose class, which I never forgot because I thought it was so conceited and stupid of why you would be talking to a company that's never going to actually see it. He did, oh, you're welcome. I believe it was like Coca-Cola for advertising you. And one of the life purpose classes, and I was like, what does this have to do with anything?
God.
So,
Oh
yeah.
man. I don't think delusional hippie narcissist is their demographic.
No, I don't think so either, honestly.
So you're obviously, I mean, there are pictures of you standing right next to Jeff. You were a manager, so you had more contact with them. Do you think that, or did you experience spying on each other? Like, if oftentimes in cults there'll be this weird dynamic where other members are encouraged to basically send out like special reports if anyone breaks the cult's rules. So if someone, say, was sharing something with you in a coaching session or private messaging you, was there an expectation that you needed to like report them to Jeff? Like, oh, they're not speaking in positive verbiage. We need to report that to Jeff so that he can.
You always reported, yes. You
Okay.
reported, you kept track of every single member, like the block list that was brought up. We kept track of everyone that left, why they left, the reasoning behind it, which a good portion of people left due to thinking they were a cult. Just want to put that out there.
So people were already saying that like years ago.
Years ago. Yeah, years.
Okay.
This was 2018 when it started. The whole cult idea. But yeah, there was hundreds of thousands of people we tracked. So if you were in a coaching position, yeah, you're tracking. You're pretty much taught to track. You're taught to, you have to be detail oriented to even work for Jeff and Shaleia in the first place, which works for me because that's just me naturally, which some people like that, some people don't. So thankfully in the jobs during the day, that works out. But you have to be detail oriented because Jeff would call you out any day, any time. It doesn't matter if you were sleeping or what. He would call you out, either DM you or just flat out call you out in front of all your peers and say, nope, this is wrong. This is supposed to look like this. Oh, you didn't pay attention to this detail. Oh, this isn't right. Oh, you're not doing this. You're not doing that. You would get constants of this, and that was discipline. which was brought up in the Amazon one, because I did watch that purposely because I wanted to see how they did it compared to how the docuseries did it.
So you've gotten into the group, you've started working for them, you're kind of starting to see the pieces fall apart a little bit. Like you're seeing the red flags, and soon you're going to get your twin flame pairing. So can you talk a little bit about that transition, like that part of time? Like, so you're working with them, you're still coaching, and you're also being coached. And then what did that look like when someone basically like gets you on the computer and is like, I have your twin flame assignment? So was there like an internal uproar within the group of like, I've been doing this, I've been paying this, you guaranteed me my twin flame, I haven't gotten one? What did all of that look like to you?
Yes, in the open forum, there was a lot of people, including all of us that have been working for years for them. We've been doing the work like at the beginning. I just want to put that out there. I did, like I said, my boss was my twin flame at the time. So I went in with someone, every single person there, whether you're in the forum, married, anything, you came in with a supposed twin flame. Because I've seen so many comments of people, how did you not see the red flags? Well, you already had your lover with you coming in. So there wasn't really a red flag there.
Oh,
You
but
just
you were dating that person, or you had like a crush on that person, or
I would say neither, just a relationship. It wasn't
okay.
necessarily dating or anything. Like they had blocked me. I'll put that out there. They had blocked me and then unblocked me one day when I did the mirror exercise, which led to me believing more in the work. And they actually did 2 other times of unblocking me, but these were just to chew me out. And then another time they hunted me down when I moved to Florida. So my story goes way more in depth. That's why I've told you before. There's no way we could cover it all at once.
Yeah. And you're writing your
But
memoir, so you want to save some of the juiciest parts for that.
well, uh, yeah, just the beginning part of it's really in depth. But
But
Jeff
it
also used to
sounds,
use the word juicy, so that's a little triggering of a
oh
word.
no, I'm so sorry.
Okay. I thought you should know that. It's a very triggering word because in Amazon actually they covered it, which I just realized. He used to always say, and welcome to another juicy class of Twin
Oh,
Flame Ascension School or Life Purpose class.
oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize it was like
Okay.
said all the
A little
time.
bit of a trigger word still for
Oh
me.
my
I'm not over
gosh.
that yet.
Okay. Well, I am really sorry.
It's okay.
Um, so you are in you came in with this kind of, I would say, a little bit toxic of a dynamic in this
Very toxic, not just
relationship.
horrible.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I
But
didn't want to like make assumptions.
no, you're not.
But okay.
It was toxic, but at the time I didn't see it as that because in our group, the blocking was actually a sign that you were progressing in your work. And the unblocking was meaning, oh, you literally, because part of the work is you're healing a block. So if you put that in your reality of being unblocked, woo, you healed a block. Just to add to the
Oh,
understanding of the group. So because part of the teaching is your entire reality is your inner reality. So everything in your reality, yes, is first off your fault. Second, anything that's off or not to your liking, that's a block you have to work. So if you don't like it when Jeff cusses you out or says you're the abuser, because he's already said that about every single one of us as whistleblowers, that we are actually abusers and that we're playing victim. Um, so he really, which I like some of the comments I've read actually in some of your videos from some people saying that Jeff isn't doing the work because he actually isn't doing his own work. It's true. We brought that up in the forum back then too. And all he said is, nope, I do the work. And they would make a new video within the Ascension coach forum of going, yeah, we're doing the work. We do the work every day. So they try to prove it. Just like when I brought up in my Medium article saying the only time they'll try to show proof is when they're under fire, which I literally called them out in all 3 of my articles, which I did get a cease and desist in 2020 for that. Which we did a whole film day on that alone on Netflix, which I didn't know what was going to make it and what wasn't. Only at the premiere did I actually see what made it into it and what didn't. But we did a whole story on that, which that's a whole full-blown story alone too, because I was newly out. I was only out for 3 months, but I wasn't going to keep quiet because me personally, I'm a very protective person of anyone I care about, period, or anyone I see that actually needs help. I step up and am very protective. So I wanted to try to get people out, and I felt horrible that I was the one who made it out and so many others didn't. But yeah, so I still feel guilty of that. Just like with the parents that are in the docuseries, I was actually close to, who was also part of Soul Family and Stitch. There's a lot of people that my heart still fully feels for, because I feel like I would have been where is now. I would have been where AKA is now because I was one of the people. We were all in the same second wave of being told pretty much you're a man in a woman's body. So I feel like, yes, because of how corrosive and how high the threat was to make the changes, that it would have been there if it wasn't for, I had 3 things that got me out of that, I guess, control of my mind, of my life. Was first stopping watching any of their stuff, listening, watching, taking part in anything they sell, specifically sell. YouTube doesn't really do it. But stopping Life Purpose Class, Twin Flame Ascension School, but I didn't actually stop watching those until I read, which we had a whole, which I brought up a little bit on TikTok, a whole meeting, 2-hour meeting about calling out Sarah Berman's, her very first article in 2019, pretty much saying a school that promised love, selling something, something. I read that so many times over, even during our meeting, because something just felt like she was telling the truth, but I couldn't put my finger on it because I couldn't think clearly. So I chose to stop watching the classes and see if I could think clearly and reread it, no matter what Jeff was saying, which even Keely says it in the series that we were told it was insanity to even try to, I guess, understand it. And I wanted to understand it. That was my first little inkling of something's off. I want to have a better understanding. So my first journey back to logical thinking, because I was not there yet. But yeah.
Thank goodness for that article then. I mean,
Yes.
if that was the first, I think Sarah from A Little Bit Culty, who, you know, shared her scar in the New York Times when she was getting out of Nexium, she says it's like you're putting these things on a shelf. Like you keep putting stuff on this little shelf and kind of forgetting about it in the back of your mind. And then one day the whole shelf just like falls to the ground. And that feels like that was one of the first things you kind of put on your shelf. You're like, this article, like I just have a feeling something weird. And so
Yeah.
it's like the first little piece. Okay, so that is really interesting about, because I've seen that before with a couple of comments and on my channel and others and in the group, like people either standing up for Jeff and saying, well, I healed my twin flames addiction and we're together now, or yeah, I did the mirror exercise and they unblocked me or they reached out to me or and it's like a coincidence, but it feels more synchronistic. Like, is that kind of what you were feeling? Like, so you think you're doing all this, well, you are doing work and this person unblocks you, and so immediately you're like, this works, like Twin Flame Universe has figured it out, it works.
Yeah, one of my second posts in the group was pretty much saying, yeah, the unblocking happened, but this actually happened outside of the group. Most of my stuff happens first outside of the group. And even when I was in the group, I was still, like Meme Squad, for example, working outside the group. Like the first unblocking happened with that tarot reader. So she did the mirror exercise with me. So she was like a coach, she just wasn't certified, and there was no such thing as coach at the time too when she did it. But she also did paid services, so I did pay her for that service. It wasn't for free. So she was still following Jeff's rules of your energy is being leaked if you do a mirror exercise thing
For free.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay. So did you move on from this old boss then?
I did, but it wasn't until okay, not a fun part of my life, but wasn't until that time that I was fired. I lost my home. I didn't have any food. I mainly was living off of water and maybe coffee every so often. So I was homeless at one point in my journey, pretty much. I had a friend that I hadn't talked to in years. She was amazing, who I'm still friends with now. she came to my aid and actually let me stay at her place for a night. So I actually had a roof over my head. And I had only a night to find somewhere to have a job and a roof over my head again. I did have a breakthrough of finding, but this was like nonstop. Going on Facebook actually was my main way of doing it. I found someone, took me in, and knew that I was looking for a job, and I did my first payment because I had money that came through, eventually just came through. So I did my down payment for 1 month, and this also led to, because I did excommunicate from my family for over a year, but this led to me getting back in contact with my mom. I wanted a way out, and I had no resource because Twin Flames Universe wasn't there for me at that time when I needed it.
Well, this is when you were working for them for free.
Still working for them and still paying too, even though I was pretty much homeless. Do keep that in mind at this time. But
wow, and you had to pay to be a coach because you had to pay for coaching and you had to pay to watch all the material.
Well, once you buy the classes, if it's paid in full, you no longer do a payment, but you can do a monthly payment or you can just do it in full. I did do a monthly payment, so it did take a couple of years for me to fully pay it off, but I did fully pay off both classes.
And did they encourage you, they being Jeff and Shaleia, did they tell you to or encourage you to cut off your family?
Absolutely, yes. They did the encouragement because that's a leak, and they cut off their family members to be with each other. They brought that up in Twin Flame Ascension School multiple times, and Life Purpose class, I think, multiple times too. Of pretty much, you don't want to continue having an energy leak. The more energy you keep, the better it is for your harmonious union. So if you're still with family, which family is toxic in general, they brought up some of the most stupidest things being toxic, which it really isn't. Like Jeff, I'll never forget a story of him saying he had to microwave his food and have frozen food, that his family didn't love him. So after school, he would have to just eat a frozen meal, which I see nothing wrong with that. But at that time, I couldn't think clearly. So it was oh, poor Jeff. But
well, at least he had food. Meanwhile, you're homeless. Like trying to put food on your table, like, and find a place to stay. It's just get a little perspective, you know?
Well, and I was still watching the videos too at this time.
Right.
But I was losing my rankings. So I lost the meme squad being management of that.
Why? Just because you weren't selling enough?
Because I had lack of abundance consciousness. I was choosing poverty. So I had poverty consciousness, which was very frowned upon within the community to be that. Like I held one position, which I don't know how I did. I did hold one position as a coach, which I'm surprised I didn't get kicked out of that. I stayed a coach though during my homeless time period.
So you are homeless and they say, now you don't get to do the thing that's giving you purpose because you have a poor lack abundant mindset, and they're like, you don't get to do these things anymore.
Correct. And at that time in our coaching meetings, they were also telling us that we needed to let go of our idea of who our twin flame was. So that was also the start of that idea of switching our mindset.
Oh, so they're starting to plant those seeds of like,
yeah,
not who
they did this for over a year of just planting. Just the first step is letting go of who you think your twin flame is. The second one is letting go of who you think you are in order to be with your twin flame. So it was gradual. It wasn't like right away. And yes, I was homeless, but I was still in every single meeting. I was still doing coaching sessions with people. I was still in a position. I wasn't in the other positions that I used to be in because I was literally kicked out. Like I was excommunicated from a good percentage of my coaches I had at the time until I found a roof over my head. The funny part is I talked more to my mom than anything during this time through text. I don't like talking on the phone. If I have to, I will. But
I really can't. David's like, just call them. I'm like, I cannot call anyone.
I could text. I could do email, but text I can't do a phone call.
Yeah. I know. Even calling like a doctor, I'm like, oh gosh. That's
how I
feel. Okay. So, well, that's good. At least it opened that line of communication up with your mom. But at this point, how successful is Jeff's business? Like, are they starting to flaunt all their money? Because if you're homeless and they're showing their videos of their home or their car or whatever they have, and then they're basically shaming you for being in a difficult position in your life, like, was that dynamic present?
They always, since day one, so even when I first got there, they always flaunted their wealth. They didn't actually make it to the status that they're at now of multiple cars and everything until I was on the verge of leaving. But
That's
yeah, they
absolutely
always did that.
disgusting. That is
Yeah,
so,
they've always done that. And Jeff doesn't believe. It's funny, I saw someone actually ask him if he gives to charities. He said that Shaleia does here and there, which is a lie. He believes it's leaking of energy. Like we literally had a whole hour session in our ascension coach meeting where he just purely talks about how it's horrible to give to charity, that you're not actually helping, so you should just give it to him instead, because then you're actually giving to not only yourself but others.
oh my God.
So if you want to know the mindset, he will absolutely lie and say that Shaleia dabs here and there, because that was all he said. He didn't say where she dabs or how much she dabs. If she actually gives to charity, they have no receipt proof of that. Like I purposely on my TikTok channel, because I know how it is for people with Trans Lifeline, I literally do it, take a picture of that, hey, here's the sales, here's my receipt proof, so people know I'm actually doing it. I do it monthly because I know how that is to not have that receipt proof.
Yeah.
Like they just say it, they never have the receipt proof to go with it.
Well, they're probably donating money to their church, and that's
Probably.
what they're getting away. I mean, that's just obviously an assumption and alleged, but I can't think of any other reason for them to have suddenly taken this hard left and gotten all Christian on everybody.
Well, they have a Catholic background. They are actual Catholics.
Oh, they are. Okay.
They are. And I personally, which probably helped with why I was so intrigued and agreed with some of the ways they spoke and talked about things, is my family background is Christian slash Catholic. So I grew up with that.
Yeah.
So that was already indoctrinated into me. So
yeah. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Okay. So you've stripped away this idea of who you think your twin flame is. So you're kind of moving into this next step. And people in the open forum are like, where's my twin flame? Where's my twin flame?
yeah, why aren't we all in harmonious union? Like we were all there for years. I was questioning and I had trouble because as a person, like eventually when I moved back in with my mother, because I suddenly had a roof over my head and was able to get a job, any job, I didn't care what job, and I didn't have a car at the time either. So I walked to work a good percentage at the time. And I did that when I lived in Florida too, but all that will go more in depth in memoir wise. But yes, it's because none of us were in harmonious union. And even as, because I started teaching classes for dreams coming true and romance attraction courses at that time, every Wednesday in the morning, 2 times, which you had to sign up for. You had to keep on the look of, yeah, even though you don't see my twin flame, I'm already in union. That's something they sell, and they still sell today, saying that you're already in union with your twin flame. So it was hard to start keeping that lie up. Like I have trouble lying, period. I'm not good at that. So when people ask me to lie, I just tell them I'm not very good at that. So I can't really do that. Yeah, we just had a lot of that going on where everywhere, everyone was questioning whether they were in the forum, an ascension coach, but they just kept on going, oh, they'll come, just continue letting go, letting go. And then we suddenly had this first wave of people. There was a lot of same-sex couples of straight people in that first wave. We are known as the second wave of, well, I wasn't straight, so I don't count in that category, but a good, including who I was matched up with, she was very straight and she had a child with special needs. So I know why Jeff put me with her, which I still feel so guilty that he's still in there too. But yeah, she was very straight. We had so many, I did the exploring. So I want to add that in there because Jeff even put out there the exploring and that we're lying. I did everything he said. I did the work.
What does that mean, the exploring?
So when we first were announced, so I didn't have Keely personally tell me. There was two people at the time telling people. I had the CEO at the time tell me that I was a man in a woman's body, which is just a puppet for Jeff and Shaleia. So that really came from them.
So
And
is it like it's a one-on-one Zoom like this?
exactly like this,
And
yes.
he's like, here's your twin flame also, or how did that go? Was it like, here's your twin flame, P.S. You're a man in a woman's body? Or was it like, hey, surprise, surprise, you're a man in a woman's body, and I've also found you your twin? Like, how did that go?
It
If
funny
you're
enough,
comfortable
it
sharing.
was she first DM'd me saying, I have really good news for you. Can we meet after our Ascension Coach meeting? And I said, yeah. I already knew what this was leading to because at this time I had stopped watching the courses. I'd stopped doing a lot of things, and I had reread Sarah Berman's article at least 50 times. I reread it a lot because, in general, I'm a person that it takes a while for me to process things. But I had reread it, and I had already seen a lot of inconsistencies with Jeff and Shaleia of our group, forum, public on their personal, because I was friends with them on Facebook and Instagram and a lot of other areas. It wasn't consistent anywhere. So I believed that article. I took that as the truth, finally.
Good.
And with that, I didn't do any more exploring from there yet. But at this point, I knew something was happening since the first group. Clearly, there was a lot of force happening because they had a lot of people leave then, but they had most people leave in this round, in the second wave.
So you were
And the doc,
seeing people leave because of this pairing situation.
yeah, because there was a lot of women, straight, not including myself, women being told, hey, you're a dude. How does it feel? Isn't that great? Congrats.
I literally am like, what were they thinking? What were they thinking? Because this had to have all been super manipulative, right?
Mhm.
Like just to
It
keep people
was.
in. Because it's like I just finished up my couple of videos on Mother God, and I'm like, I feel like she had to keep trying to like convince herself of this delusion too. But with Jeff and Shaleia, it feels like they're just like keep lying, keep do whatever you have to do to keep people buying into this, do it. And they don't really care who it hurts.
No, I personally, I feel, is my personal opinion, is that they, they love money. They love the fact there's two docuseries, well, two docuseries out, and that there's now hundreds of YouTube videos. I've watched multiple of them. Some people cover this really well. A lot of people don't do their research. That's why I'm really specific to who I say yes to and who I say no to. But you actually do your research and care, which is also an important part. But yeah, there's people also out there just doing it to do it. Like I've listened to podcasts and they did zero research, and I couldn't even listen to the podcast because they were just doing it for listeners, not for the purpose of educating, the purpose of, hey, this is a real deal thing happening. And Jeff and Shaleia, they don't care. I don't personally feel like they understand what it feels like to actually care for another human being. I don't think they have that ability to do that at all. Like they can fake it. They're great at faking it.
Yeah.
Like I can give them full credit on that. But when it comes to genuinely caring about another human being, I don't think they have that unless it was just them they were caring about. That's why I worry so much about Grace. But yeah.
Yeah. It's scary that there are people out there that like don't have that empathy, that care. Because if they did, they wouldn't be doing this to people.
Yeah.
If they
Sadly.
did, someone would leave the group and they'd say, I really hope you get what you're looking for. Like if you need support, we're here for you. But they don't do that. They isolate you, they block you, they keep a list of why they blocked you. It's like a burn book. Like I don't know
It
if
is.
yeah.
Yes, I know exactly what you're
Okay.
talking about.
I was like, am I aging myself? So you've just seen this wave of people get paired up and some leave and some try to lean in. You're already questioning things. You get this DM from the CEO who's like, great news. And part of you is like, oh no, here we go.
Yep, you got it. That's exactly what I was feeling. But I
So,
knew I had to still follow the steps. You have to, or else they'll catch on to the facts you're thinking of leaving. I genuinely was starting to think of leaving, but I didn't know how. But the thought was there. How
that's
to get out wasn't there.
okay. I got to play the game almost so that because
Yeah.
protection, basically. Um, so they sit you down in a Zoom and what was that moment like? If you feel comfortable sharing.
I'm comfortable sharing it. I shared actually, Sarah Berman wrote a little bit about it in her third article, her most recent one. She had it come out like the day after the docuseries came out on
Wow.
Vice. So it was a tarot reading, funny enough. That's how she chose to do it. And I knew exactly where she was leading it.
And she knew that you had found the group from a tarot reading.
Yeah, because once you're in the group and once you get into higher positions, you have to brag about constantly of what led you there. So everyone in the entire forum, Ascension Coach, Inner Circle knew my story.
So that's
Everyone.
so
So
manipulative. They're like,
yeah,
let's use the same tactic to like, they probably sensed you might be on the way out. And they were like, here's a last ditch effort to like keep her in.
I kind of am partial of back and forth on that just because of how long it actually took them to realize I left at the time when I left.
Oh,
So I don't really feel like they fully caught on. I think I did a really good job playing into what I needed to at the time. But her first card was telling me who my person was, which I already knew because she was a part of my soul family. And I, but um, yeah. And that was not good news. I hated that news. It felt horrible, but I knew I had to accept it. So the next thing she said was, "Do you want to do a healing session?" And I said, "Sure," because I knew I couldn't say no. And we actually did the mirror exercise right then and there. She closed her eyes. I didn't close mine. I kept them wide open and let her do it with me. It was funny because I waited till the second for her to open her eyes and I shut my eyes. So it seems like I did the whole session with
wow.
her. And then I opened them and then she had them already open and I did it pretending like, yep, I had them closed. That was an entire hour, entire hour. And then she told me to go explore with my twin flame. And I was too much in shock to actually move into that because we did end up DMing. We talked like days straight just getting to know each other. But yeah, I was so in shock once my computer screen turned off and everything was done. I put down my computer and just started crying and staring out the window because I didn't know what to do. I felt stuck. I felt like there was no way out, which I was right to feel that way because I didn't know it was coming later in time after the exploring. But yeah, it just felt terrible, so horrible. Though it is really funny, which I still find funny today, which maybe I shouldn't, but it's the way I cope. One of the first conversations I had with my twin flame, my now chosen twin flame by Jeff and Shaleia, was, "I'm so glad I'm not the male in our relationship." That was the first words out of her mouth in our personal conversation.
Oh, wow. And you're just sitting there like, oh my gosh, don't cry.
When that happened, I actually replied to her very angry. I did not hold back on how I was feeling.
Oh, good.
All I said is pretty much, yeah, it sucks. I didn't want this. At least you're the female. And she's like, "You have a block. Maybe we should do this together and work through this." And I went,
So
"No,
she
that's
was
okay."
down. She was like, yeah, you're gonna do this. You're gonna,
Yeah,
wow.
absolutely. She was fully, and it was funny because as I was dropping away, who my supposed twin flame was all gun ho. So
Wow. Wow. Okay. Okay. So you're feeling a lot. I mean, I can't even imagine the feelings you must be feeling. Like,
it was horrible feeling. Like every part of me, my body was even reacting. I was sweating, I was crying, I wanted to puke. Just puke, 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 and
you
just lay on the
viscerally knew.
floor.
Yeah. Like your body even knew that this was not what
Right.